Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting for January. Today is January 2nd, 2025. It is now 5:30. So I'd like to call this meeting to order and follow the agenda that we have, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the U.S. of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So this is our first meeting, I guess, in this room, starting with the Planning Commission. So welcome, everyone. I'll quickly go through a roll call. Jeannie Strulas to my right is here. Jake, to her right, is here. Michael Anderson, unfortunately, is ill today and sends his apologies. And Michel Bogart is traveling. So we have a quorum with 3 out of 5. So we'll call this meeting in order. If we could have a motion by Jeannie to approve the minutes from the November Planning Commission meeting.
Do I have a motion to approve?
All in favor?
Yeah, second the motion. Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, yes, we all read them. Thank you. We'll move on. Some other administrative issues. The motion to approve the commission meeting dates for 2025. They're normally held the first Thursday of every month. So we will have them on February 6th is our next meeting, March 6th, April 3rd, May 1st. In June, we'd like to propose to have it not on Thursday, June 5, but on June 4th, if the calendar permits for use of this room. Alex maybe could help us out with the calendar if there are other meetings. I know there's no board of trustee, but there might be land use board use.
There's no land use board that meets on Wednesdays.
Good. So we can do therefore and adopt June 4th as a meeting and July 2nd as a meeting. If that's okay, Alex, that makes sense?
Yeah, there shouldn't be a conflict.
Okay, good. So that settles that. August 7th, September 4th, October 2nd, November 6th, and December 4th. So I will make a motion to approve these meeting dates for this calendar year of 2025. Do I have a second?
Yep.
Yes.
I have a second. All in favor? That's yes.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda, we were going to have a discussion from Mrs. Sinclair on the climate impact and financial risk. We're going to have to move this to the next meeting to be held February 6th. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here. What we will talk about is insurance costs and property values. And some of the ideas that we may have to mitigate those if possible. Looking at some village funding opportunities, disaster declarations, also perhaps thinking about updating flood zones, updating elevation recommendations, sanitary systems. These all be in discussion on the agenda, I hope, for February 6th. Moving along, bicycle lane, the Planning Commission is working with the Environmental and Sustainability Committee in terms of helping them formulating a plan as per the master plan to sort of finish in the village proper signage for possible bike lane extensions throughout the village, or at least signage extensions. From the Planning Commission, Jeannie Strulas is leading that with the Environmental and Sustainability Committee. So I'll hand it over to Jeannie if you have anything that you can add for that.
I don't really have anything to add other than Sheila and I had a good conversation about a month ago, and The next step was to have her send a proposal and then continue discussions. So I think that after this week, we'll reach out and try to figure out who can be on this subcommittee and how we can move this analysis forward.
So Sheila Pfeiffer, who's co-chair of the Environmental Sustainability Committee, sent us this afternoon a note taking inventory of what's out there in the village, which is a very good first step. But what we need from that subcommittee is really the recommendations to implement. What I do know is that we have VHB Consulting, Ryan Winter, who can, once we have these recommendations, look at them and opine whether they make sense or not. I know there's a lot of discussion going back now, 1, 2, 3, 4 mayors ago, Romanowski with First Snake Lane and some of the challenges there in doing bike lanes, as I've said earlier, from my perspective, but that's only mine and waiting to hear what everybody else thoughts are, Sharrows are the clear, in my view, solutions or recommendations with signage as opposed to actual lanes down First Neck, down South Main for a number of reasons, and there's something that VHB's already looked at and opined on and sort of backed my thoughts on that subject. But I think we're still waiting for actual, thoughts and recommendations in terms of this idea of circular bikes lanes that would connect all of the various points of interest, whether it's the beach, whether it's the train station, whether it's the cultural center, the art center, the various points of interest throughout the village. And and then the question is, who are you going to have on that committee? I think less is more. You, Sheila, I don't know who else you had in mind.
I was going to leave that up to Sheila.
Okay.
So, I think we'll just definitely reconnect after next week.
So the steps are for this committee to now is take an inventory to sort of make their recommendation, come back to the Planning Commission, we'll review them. We will then, from there, put him to Ryan Winter from VHB to look at and make the final recommendation as they are experts and have looked at these issues themselves from a traffic studies, et cetera, that they've done in the past and have a good knowledge in the village. And they may or may not follow what's in the master plan in terms of final recommendation. So that's kind of the steps we should take. Hopefully, if we could get something in January going, we could look at this in February and then give it to VHB to look at in one package so that we don't run too many consulting costs. And then from there, maybe have some recommendations by the end of April, and if there are things we could do before the summer, have them sort of have this our target so that we could have things possibly in place by then.
That makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Report updates. Project Diamonds, that would normally be handled by Michelle. We've had some discussions on the 31st of December with the Diamond people. They need to send an engineer, do a site plan in terms of the site. What we decided to do with the mayor's office is to have Michelle work with the village administrator, Scott Russell, so that together they can push this along and make sure that we meet our sort of project management timeline, which is about 12 months out. So phase one is to update the Gantt chart that we have from a project management perspective. To do that, they will need to coordinate with the engineer studies that they need to do on the site. Hopefully they can, Diamond will have somebody next week or the week after. We will then coordinate with Alex for the planning board in sort of all of the steps for that to happen. We will as well figure out all the different approvals, secrets, et cetera, and help them along to make sure that we keep track. I will also get in touch with the council of the town, Mark Redmond, who is working on the cell tower leases, and see where they are, because they are working with TowerPoint for 2 locations, Oakland and the transfer station, and that is taking longer than we thought, and we need to understand from the town what are the issues that they're running into, hopefully learn from them, and from that try to make sure that we're on track in terms of all the public hearings for the public to come in and talk about their views in terms of what we're trying to solve for. Mainly public safety. So Alex, who's here, if you could coordinate with Scott Russell at some point, we need to have a discussion with Diamond people so that we sort of help them shepherd through the land use process and try to make sure they understand everything that we need to do at the village level and coordinate that, Alex. So, and Scott is aware that we had a meeting this afternoon on the topic. Talking about now SCWA, Suffolk County Water Authority, water, if you want to, Jake,
Sure.
update us on that, where we are.
Thank you, Christian. We had a very productive 2 or 3 session presentations by Joe Parochi, the Deputy Head of Operations of Suffolk County Water Authority, and I would hope that his presentation has been uploaded to the village website by now, because it was quite substantial as a matter of information of both water resources, storage, and mitigation and impact matters. We have an opportunity to do a cost benefits right now of our North Magi plot plan site for additional water storage capacity, which is, as a matter of sustainability and infrastructure, I would imagine something quite valuable for the village. And there may be an opportunity of a land lease usage for the village of extra income, plus augment our water storage capacity, which we all know gets quite strained during the peak months of the summer. So to have that added capacity, all of the predominant environmental risk factors, economic, will be borne by Suffolk County Water Authority. It's been done in our nearby communities, so it's a rather unique opportunity for us as a village to consider additional capacity and generate some extra income for the village. So I will be meeting again with Scott Russell tomorrow in the village and discuss a cost benefits analysis to present to the trustees and see if this is something that the village would like to move forward with.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think you're meeting tomorrow at 11.
At
He's
11,
looking
yeah.
forward to meeting with you. I think one of the first things that'll need to be done is for CWA to do I guess a site plan and
Yeah.
figure it out over there between what is the town, what is the village.
Correct. We will be reviewing the North Magi Street site plan to see where the encumbrances are and what's demarcated lines, and I'm fairly optimistic that hopefully we can move forward with something like this. We all know how stress it gets here in July, August months when water usage and critical use becomes strained. And it would also be nice if Suffolk County Water Authority stops posting the water hogs. If we can come up with more sustainable building management solutions, which to Suffolk County Water Authority's credit, they do have incentive programs. So it's more of creating open communication with the community at large of some benefits of using better technology and water management, which also, by the way, impacts our whole conversation of our wastewater sewage treatment plan concept. It both goes hand in hand, by the way. One is not mutually exclusive from the other. You don't want to impair existing water sources with wastewater management. So understanding where certain critical assets are is going to be valuable. And this was a unique opportunity for us to come together, both in the village and hopefully tie in our associates over at Southampton Township as well.
Thank you, Jake. And from I think my perspective, and I discussed it with other planning commission members, the thought was if we could get that done, which would be extraordinary accomplishment, not only for use of the land, but for every aspect from an environmental and energy use that conservation that you were speaking of, if we could get that done, that would avoid us having to go down a pike of possibly, should that not be able to get done, to think about geothermal, open versus closed system. We got a lot of open systems that people are putting in on large properties. And if we couldn't get that done, this commission should probably think about whether or not we should continue as a community having open geothermal systems altogether. They're really big usage.
It's a valid concern, Chris, to see what the inadvertent impacts are of geothermal. It has some benefits, but also has certain kind of environmental and water usage impacts as well. So we would need to look into that as well.
Yeah.
It almost created another subject matter issue to evaluate.
But Jake, would you argue that should this be able to get done, that one probably don't need to go down this path of thinking about not allowing open geothermal? Or
It's
are they
probably-
mutually
it's-
exclusive? How do you think about
It's
that?
probably too early right now. We need to really understand, and I haven't done it. We haven't done any data analytics on the amount of installations in the community. Let's understand the absorption usages first in the environmental analysis. So it's definitely a point of contention, but let's see how many of these installs have been done first before we put a moratorium on it. We just need to evaluate the impact on water storage, water usage first.
Right.
I just don't know. I don't think, Len, maybe, I certainly don't know. Let's say if there's 300 homes in the village, is it 30 homes, 50 homes? We just don't know. We need to really work with the building department, see where those permits were approved in the first place, and see what the extraction usage impact is. So some legwork needs to be done.
Yep. And you're going to be,
I'll look into it.
yeah, you're going to be
Yeah.
doing that. That's great, and thank you for that. All right, moving on, the agenda, business revitalization. This is for Jeannie to give us an update.
So we had a really good meeting right after Thanksgiving with the committee. We made some progress in terms of understanding and putting pen to paper in what we need for next steps, which is budget and a marketing calendar to support the business during the off-season. We have been in contact with the Playhouse and the gallery owners, and we're doing outreach to other nonprofits. So, and then we also had a good meeting with Joe Shaw from the press, and he has agreed to do an express roundtable sometime originally he suggested February. I think that may be too soon, but definitely before the spring. So I think a lot of progress is going to happen in the next month in terms of just getting everyone focused again with the holiday season, people just were focused on other things. So I think next month I'll have hopefully more to report back.
Okay. And Jeannie, I think you and I are meeting with Trustee Stevenson tomorrow at 3 p.m. to
Correct.
sort of bring him up to date on some of these things that are all been going on.
Yep.
Right, okay, good.
And he
Thank-
attended the meeting the last time, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
good, all right. So thank you for that update. We had on the agenda Tree Commission, which normally is attended by Michael Anderson, and he's not here. So I don't have any updates, and so at the February 6th meeting, we'll have Michael provide an update in terms of of what they're doing. What I can provide an update on is tree legislation. We have a draft, and we've had input from Sheila Pfeiffer, who's just joined us. Thank you, Sheila. And discussions about the DBH, which is the diameter breast height for trees, whether it should be 10 as recommended in a master plan or 8. The issue is if you multiply a diameter by pi, for those who remember their geometry class, you, for 10, basically get 31-inch tree, and which may be a lot. That's a recommendation of the master plan, so we've edited the draft for it to be 8. And we've also sort of made some more additions with council and mayor today, working on that. The commission has had a draft of it. Do anybody have any comments on what I gave you earlier, just before New Year's?
Not
Anybody
just
looked
yet.
at it? No.
Not just yet.
So if you have any comments, try to provide them within a week. What we're trying to do is finish up a draft and present and put it up for notice at the Board of Trustee later this month for a public hearing in February is the intent. And there were also some changes we needed to make for instance, in the definition of what the tree committee has to do. So there were some updates in there since we're now a tree city, so they don't have to apply for it as it's written in the code. They're just going to have to maintain that tree city status according to the foundation, the Arbor Day Foundation, and so on. So we're making all these changes, and we'll have a public hearing in February for that. That's the timeline. But everyone will have a chance to look at this draft before the public hearing when it'll be put in. I think you'll see it on Tuesday, Board of Trustee, Tuesday, the 21st of January. It should be there as a notice for a February hearing. Suffolk County Deer Management, SCDM, again, that is an update from Michael Anderson. I didn't get one from him for December, but what I heard around Thanksgiving was really very good progress. I think SCDM is ahead of well, at least I know he doesn't want to, SCDM doesn't want to give any sort of targets, though I think for $20,000, the commission needs to think about what is the minimum that needs to be targeted, and I think we will exceed that target, and obtaining as well some additional permits from the, I forget what agency is it, the DEA, I guess is the DEA, to have some more permits for the month of March.
Yeah, right, the Department of Environmental Conservation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The short of it is, it's exceeded plan for the season 24-25. Well, 25 is early to say, which is January 2nd, but it's going well, and Michael will update us on February 6th. Sheila, we, before you came in, talked about bicycles. Since you are the sponsor of this, maybe if you want to share with us any thoughts, and we're sort of doing differently, so you can come there or you can sit at the table, whatever you'd like.
Oh,
Yep.
it's all right. I've really been very sick. I don't
Yes,
get too
so-
close to anyone.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm so sick, I forgot the meeting started at 5:30. I thought it was at 6. So apologies. So I sent
Yes.
the members this rough kind of survey that I did of what exists now in the village as a starting point for us as a village to think about creating something a little more organized and a little more of a network of roads as is recommended in the
Master plan.
updated comprehensive plan on page 50, the idea that you don't just want to have bike lanes for the sake of having a bike lane. You want to have bike lanes so that they will get you to some place that you might want to go. So I don't think we can do this at this meeting. I'm sorry, Jeannie, I was going to get back to you before this meeting,
okay.
but I've been so sick I wasn't able to. So I would like to see, I don't know if this commission needs to formulate it or if the Environment and Sustainability Committee can formulate it, but I think we need a subcommittee, if you want to call it that will sit down and work on this, dig into what's here already and what might be appropriate. And in our committee, we talked about launching, we don't have any plans yet, but we want whatever might happen to also include an extensive education campaign for everyone in the village. I'm sure people have seen that there's a lot of confusion about, some people ride on the sidewalk still, some people ride on, I still see adults riding on the wrong side of the street because I guess they are old enough, they were brought up thinking that's what you do. I don't really know. But there's a lot of bike etiquette and bike safety. And I know 3 years ago, we worked with the police to sponsor an event that started at the History Museum and, was on a Saturday. And I'm sure they have experts in bike safety that they'd be happy to work with us, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the next step is. I'm sorry I wasn't here when you talked about it before. I don't know what you may
Yeah,
have
so-
said, but,
Yeah, so let me help you with that. So we got your memo. We've all read it, and it's a very good inventory of what we have today. What we now need to formulate is what does the Environmental and Sustainability Committee want to see, following or not the master plan, in terms of roadmap. What do you want to connect in terms of all the points of interest? The beach, the railroad, the Arts Center, the Cultural Center, the library, the museum,
Right.
all the downtown, and et cetera, and sort of map out. There is one report that Jeannie's going to give you. It dates a bit back to 2012, but it gives, from the National Association of City Transportation Office, some good guidelines in terms of what you can and cannot do and what you should think about.
okay.
From a work perspective, what we'd like to do is, and we'll sort of lend a hand with Jeannie to sort of coordinate between ourselves and the Environmental and Sustainable Committee what you want to see. Once it's done, sort of run it through the Planning Commission. What we will then do once both that committee and the commission agree with the recommendation is to run it by Ryan Winter from VHB, who's a consultant, who has done this for the village over the years, and who's up to date on what we could be thinking about. And from there, have the consultant actually be the one making the presentation as to what we should do to the Board of Trustees for them to think about. In terms of timeline, if we want to have any chance to have anything implemented by the summer, I think this sort of recommendation, we should have it done probably by the end of February. From there, we can give it to the consultant during March, and then maybe do presentations in April and sort of have the Board of Trustee opine on it or not in terms of budget for signage, for road painting and whatever else might be recommended
Right.
and adopted, and hopefully have some of it implemented by the summer if at all possible.
Right.
But it should be sort of our track in terms of project that we should aspire to get done. Does that make sense to you?
Yep. I just don't know who, Ryan Winter, he's not from, so it's not BFJ that you're going
No,
back to?
this is VHB Consultant, and they're in Hauppauge.
And they've worked with the village
Yeah,
before?
they have.
We have a professional services contract with them.
Okay.
I have a thought. Alex, do we have the GIS capability from what's been plotted here already, and then see where we can create the links as a visual guide?
I don't believe the village has GIS capabilities. I think those are all prepared by consultants.
Okay.
You're talking about making it be a map.
Right, well,
Yeah.
you can't do a GIS because this is valuable, right? This can be overlaid into a
Right.
GIS mapping and see where the exposed areas are that can cause accidents, if you will, something we all want to avoid, whilst creating a continuity. So you do that through GIS, so maybe that's one of the things we can have the consultant look into, what.
Yeah, I mean, once
What
we
we
give
have
it to
plotted for
VHB,
this, yeah.
once we give our, sort of our wish list as a community to VHB, perhaps we can ask if it's possible and reasonable in terms of cost to integrate it into a GIS before it's presented to the public and the Board of Trustees for recommendations from this commission and the committee. How about
Right.
that?
I mean, there is
Sure.
this that was done previously, but this is not necessarily what we're still gonna be.
But does that complement what you did, which is
No, I mean,
the
what
town?
I did is actuality.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's valuable what you did.
Yeah, there's just a good inventory of what is
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty comprehensive, I think. I'm not saying I didn't miss one or two signs, but, and there are some gaping contradictions, if you will. But I won't go into those now because that's not really appropriate. But I would like to start meeting on this. And Jeannie, I guess you're gonna be the person that will continue to meet with us. And does this commission want to recommend anyone else to sit on the group that's gonna create this wish list?
So, we've given it some thoughts, and I had a bit of chat with the mayor on this. I think, at the end of the day, there's no point in involving the PD or the Department of Public Works for this. I think we need to come up with recommendations, run it with a consultant. Once we have it through the consultant, whose business it is, they will be able to come up with recommendations that are of best practice for the village.
Okay, so the elephant
So
in the room
it's really
is,
for you to think about, what are you trying to solve for? And I think what we're trying to do is connect some points of interest in the,
Yeah.
right, between the, as we said, the
Well,
beach, the
yeah.
railroad, the various cultural centers, the library, and the downtown. Now,
Yeah,
unfortunately,
and-
the downtown, you've got non-bike lanes on Job's and
Right,
Maine, but
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, the trick is continuity,
Right.
right? You don't want bike lanes going nowhere.
well, this is the
And
problem.
that's what I
And, I
think.
mean, there is recognition of all those points that you're talking about if you look at where the signs
Yeah.
are. There are signs that say beach, that say library, that say train station. So, it's a question of strengthening that or changing it, perhaps in some cases. But, part of what I've been told several times by different people is that First Neck Lane is off the table to be considered as something. And I would like to say that I think that as a village, what we do is we sit down around a table and we discuss things. And if there are people who object to bicycling on First Neck Lane, then I think we need to do what we did with the gas leaf blower problem and get everyone together in a room and work it out. It's really, I mean, it's completely contradictory because at the end of First Neck Lane, there are not one but two signs straddling the Meadow Club that say beach, village, da-da-da. And what they're directing people to do is to ride a bicycle on that portion of Meadow Lane, which is the most dangerous piece of
that's what I
road
was thinking,
in the
right.
village. It goes around 3 curves and every property comes right out to the road. And I know people who won't walk their dogs there, they won't, they don't even want to drive there because it is so dangerous, even in, especially in the summer,
Yeah.
obviously. So to be directing bikes to go that route seems a little bit unsafe to me. And I do have a solution, which is that Cooper's Neck Road is an absolutely straight road, plenty of room on it.
Okay, well, these are all the things that we need to work on and sit down and think about.
But I'm saying we need someone, it's not gonna do any good for our committee to sit and make a wish list if I'm gonna be told things are off the table. We need to have that discussion beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think arteries like First Neck, South Main, having an actual bike lane like you have on Hill Street, we know is going to be more than a challenge, but there are solutions around it. We've talked about it before. You can do sharrows on these.
Have you ever seen a sharrow?
We
I
use
don't
them-
understand why someone would think a sharrow was less obtrusive than a bike lane. Do you know what they look like?
Not only do I know what they look like, but Bridgehampton has them all over the place.
They have them on
East Hampton
Main
have
Street
it all over
when
the
they
place.
They have them on Main Street when the bike lane gives out and they allow parking, and therefore they tell the bikes they have to go in the main lane of traffic, and that's what a sharrow is. The bikes go in the main lane of traffic.
Right, so
There's
you're
no
sharing.
need. There's no need for that on a street like First Neck Lane, and it's in fact less safe. And it encouraged bikes to ride more than one across. Have you ever tried to go down First Neck Lane and had 3 bicycles in front of you, abreast?
Right.
I have. Now, I'm all for biking, but, the bikers have to respect a certain etiquette of biking as well as, the cars. So, I mean, obviously, we're all going to have to compromise to a certain extent, but I would like to be able to talk to the people who are so opposed to any kind of viable bike lane on part of First Neck Lane.
Well, think about, I just want to point out something to you. If you have along a road a bike lane, you understand that you cannot park in the
Yeah.
street where there's a bike lane.
Right. You're not supposed to. There's no parking on First Neck, and there's no parking on South Main. It's not a problem.
There
sign-
is, well,
the-
I
the
can't say
sign-
for First Neck, I don't live there, but on South Main, there is parking, and people park
Oh.
there all the time.
Only in the part where you live. You can't do it further down.
Okay, you may be right. I'm not going to
Yeah.
challenge you on that.
Go
but-
check
but-
the signs.
But you may
And
be
the
right.
reason
yes.
is because they don't want people parking and
Right.
walking to the beach.
Right.
That's very obvious, and
Right.
I understand that.
All right, well, look, I think we sort of have a, Ginny,
A
you want?
plan. No, I was just going to say, I think you bring up some really good
Yeah.
points, and it's just a matter of maybe identifying, besides yourself, maybe 2 other people, 3, that you
Right.
believe will be a good, contributor. And then as we start to discuss and put on paper what the wish list is,
Right.
at that point, we can also identify others that may have differing opinions, bring them
Okay,
in, and they
good.
can respond ahead of, the consultant
Right.
and all that.
Yeah. Okay, good. So, I'm
And,
sorry.
and I would say that Jeannie's very good at this, which is why I thought she would be. I had to convince her to jump in
But I don't
and help us
bike.
I'm not.
Who else might you have on your environmental committee that you might use for this?
Well, the committee right now.
I don't know your
The
membership.
committee right now has lost a few members, but I think
Okay.
Rob Coburn would be
Right.
with us, with me to do
Right.
this.
Okay, so that's 2. Is there anybody else?
Probably not.
Okay.
We're currently,
But one can always call on, and if anyone in the community is listening to this,
right.
as
I'd like
it's-
to enlist people who ride
Yeah.
bikes. I have some neighbors that ride bikes all the time. One of them might be
Right.
interested, but I'm open to someone else suggesting someone.
Yes, so if we could have, I always think less is more, but, so if
Yeah.
you have
Well, I think-
Rob, you, Jeannie, that's 3. If you could have somebody from a resident who'd want to chime in
Right.
and have opinions on it and contribute and be willing to roll up the sleeve and work with you on it,
Right.
that would be great.
Okay, so we'll do that, and I'll be in touch with you soon. We'll try to have a first meeting relatively soon
Yep.
if we're gonna.
Yeah,
try
I
to-
think we should meet regularly so that we move it along.
Right, and I'll email you about a good time for you, because I
Okay.
understand your time is, you're not
Okay.
always here.
Thank you.
Texting is always the best way to get my
Text,
attention.
okay, sorry, text.
Thank you, Sheila.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Because I am gonna go back to bed.
Chicken
Yes,
soup.
please.
Chicken,
better.
chicken soup and a whiskey will do it. But on the tree legislation, I know you've been very keen for us to move on it, and we are.
Yeah.
So you've heard what
So I'll
I
be
had
able
to say.
see the draft with the
Well, you
changes.
saw the first draft. You made some very good comments, all of which were, as I said, spot on, so thank you for those. They will be another edition that we'll see in a couple, 3 weeks, and the rest of the public and everyone will see it. I think Thursday, the 20, as I said, on the agenda, in the 20, Tuesday the 21st, and for a public hearing sometime in February.
The first Thursday in February, okay.
Yeah, I think that's the track. Okay? Thank you.
Many thanks for your attention.
All right,
better.
thank
Happy New
you.
Year.
All right.
Yes.
So Alex, we called on you on Project Diamond in terms of what we need to get done. Is there any updates you can provide us that we should be aware of that could be of relevance to us on the Planning Commission?
Just that we're continuing work on digitizing the zoning map, so that project is underway. We're also working on codifying the project that was discussed at the Board of Trustees, which is allowing workforce housing in the office district. So a BFJ had prepared a proposal. There was a presentation at the Board of Trustees meeting. So we're just advancing that into code, and when that's ready, there'll be further public hearings on that.
Okay. Good. Okay, any public comments? I guess the only member left of the public is actually one of our trustee and deputy mayor. Do you have anything that we need to know that you want to share with us, Trustee Zananti?
I think the path that you're laying out and to accomplish what you have on the agenda makes perfect sense.
Okay. That-
By committee, as Sheila laid it out, will be all people who see things the way she does, and maybe you might want to consider a different viewpoint, but that's
We should
just-
brainstorm and figure out let's make it productive.
We can talk offline, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just my, my sense that it should be a vibrant conversation.
Okay.
Good, no, this is very, yeah, good point. Okay, thank you. So if we have nothing further, it is now 6:15, and I'll call the meeting to end. Do I have a motion?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you very much, and we will see you on February 6th. Thank you, everyone.
Happy New Year.